Coming up, a governor's mansion engulfed in flames.
The Trump administration cracks down on national defunding.
United States House and Senate members are busy while away from D.C.
From the White House, covering the actions of the administration and how they are running our country. From the nation's capital, where Iowa lawmakers' work impacts the nation. From Iowa, where politicians determine what direction to take Iowa in. DITV's The Update is keeping you up to date with all the latest nationwide and statewide news and politics.
Hello and welcome to The Update, your home for national news.
From the White House, our nation's capital, and all over the country, we're keeping you up to date. I'm Ryan Lynch.
And I'm Isabel Thier. And Ryan, I know there's been a lot going on in the nation, inside, outside, everything's just going on. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's been a lot of news going on, just from tariffs to stuff in the House and Senate and just everywhere, really.
I know. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's mansion was set on fire over the weekend. The governor stated early Sunday morning and left substantial damage to the property. No injuries were reported, and Shapiro and his family were evacuated. Police are calling this a planned attack of arson and arrested 38-year-old Cody Balmer in connection. Balmer turned himself into police just hours after the attack and is currently facing charges of attempted homicide, terrorism, and arson. Police claim Balmer climbed the fence outside the home before entering and setting fire to the property with a homemade Molotov cocktail. Police are still investigating whether this is an act of anti-Semitism, as the fire occurred just hours after Shapiro's Passover dinner.
We don't know the person's specific motive yet, but we do know a few truths. First, this type of violence is not okay.
Moving over to education, visas are being canceled across the country for international students. Over 790 students at more than 120 colleges and universities have had their visas canceled or legal status terminated over the last few weeks. Visas can be revoked for a number of reasons. These colleges claim that students are losing to stay their right over the U.S. Over small infractions like parking tickets, students are enacting lawsuits against the Trump administration, saying they've been denied due process. And with all these things happening within the country, we're going to go right into the House of Representatives. Members of the House of Representatives are pushing government efficiency. One of the Republican members have called for the defunding of the National Public Radio and Public Broadcasting Service. This goes hand in hand with President Trump's goal to cut federal funding, as they're looking to cut $500 million from the corporation for public broadcasting. Although public broadcasting should not be affiliated with any political party, many Republicans believe that is too left-leaning with drag queens and transgender people. The National Public Radio reports on all things and are not politically biased organization. The Public Broadcasting Service serves local communities and provides educational content for children. The government is also cracking down on federal funding to Harvard University. After anti-Semitism allegations, the Trump administration is looking to renew nearly $9 billion worth of federal grants and funds going to Harvard.
Why are the American taxpayers subsidizing a university that has billions of dollars in the bank already? And we certainly should not be funding a place where such grave anti-Semitism exists.
The Trump administration sent the university a list of demands earlier in April, which consist guidelines on leadership, admission policies, and limitations on campus protests. Shortly later, Harvard's president refused to comply to these terms, and only hours after $2.2 billion worth of funds were froze to the university. And on March 15th, Abrego Garcia was mistakenly deported to El Salvador. He was deported to a mega prison with hundreds of other El Salvadoran and Venezuelan men. Due to a mistake, he was sent away, but the case made its way up to the Supreme Court, where that case was decided in 9-0 favor for Garcia's return. The president, however, is standing ground and does not believe he needs to bring him back. This is causing national uproar as the Supreme Court ruled that it is what needs to be done.
People who are in the United States under legal protective status, like Abrego Garcia was, are entitled to due process. So if the president gets to shred the Constitution and ignore the Supreme Court in this case, it is a very short path to the president ignoring court orders in other cases. So every American should care about this.
Nothing has been done to get Garcia back to America, but all eyes are on Trump and his next move.
United States congressional members are returning to their districts for a brief recess. Democrats are moving forward with existing plans to hold in-person town hall events, while Republican congressional leadership suggests that their party does not hold in-person events during their return to their districts. And however, some Republican senators and representatives are still hosting in-person events. For the House, Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene and Florida Representative Byron Donalds announced in-person events. Donalds and Greene's town halls limit registration to people in their respective districts. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley launched his 45th annual tour of all 99 counties in Iowa and faced opposition for some of his statements. Grassley talked about bipartisan legislation aimed at re-solidifying Congress's authority to regulate trade.
I'm trying to recapture the constitutional authority of Article 1, Section 8, one of the 18 powers of Congress to regulate interstate and foreign commerce.
Grassley mentioned Democrats caused a disconnect from the Constitution in 1963 and was met with boos from the audience. Both parties have seen frustrated attendees at their events with the recent legislation. Republicans get complaints for recent moves by the Trump administration, such as federal workforce cuts, likely a reason to limit attendance for some of their events. Democrats face backlash from their own party for supporting a bipartisan government funding bill. The government is also facing issues with the budget. The budget is $1.3 trillion more money than the United States has on hand. The amount is the second highest over a 6-month period on record. Meanwhile, the Trump administration plans to continue spending cuts with the State Department. A recent memo shows plans to nearly half of the budget to be cut from that organization.
And that's cool, and we're going to toss it to Johnny Voltman for a look at international things.
Thanks, guys. Negotiations are beginning, slowing and controlling of what's going on around the world. Also, attacks are causing rifts in potential negotiations to resolve the international conflicts. Ukraine experienced their worst attack of the year with their war against Russia over the weekend. 2 ballistic missiles struck the northeastern city of Sumy, hitting a church service. 35 people died in the strike, and Ukraine's frustrations are boiling as it's been a month since Russia rejected a ceasefire offer.
1 month that has made it completely clear Russia is the sole cause of this war.
Israel is continuing to grow their ground operations in the Gaza Strip as 2/3 of the city is now under displacement orders or no-go zones. Humanitarian aid has not been in this strip for 6 weeks. An Israeli airstrike hit a functioning hospital on Sunday as well. While there were no deaths in the strike, the hospital is the last functioning one in the city.
And unfortunately, because of what happened, the capacity of this hospital to deliver care is disabled. It's currently non-functional.
Israel and Hamas are also entering negotiations for another ceasefire. This one would release 10 Israeli hostages and free hundreds of Palestinians who are either imprisoned or detainees. It would last 45 days, and talks for a permanent ceasefire would take place. Talks are continuing between the United States and Iran over the growth of Iran's nuclear program. Iranian officials announced negotiations will transfer from Tehran to Rome. The United States has not confirmed and are reportedly upset about the advancement of these negotiations.
So I think that might be tapping us along. But Iran has to get rid of the concept of a nuclear weapon. They cannot have a nuclear weapon.
So while talks are beginning and continuing in 2 of those situations, Ukraine and Russia's relationship remains on the rocks as no ceasefire talks have been regenerated. I'll send it back to you guys at the desk.
Izzy, it's interesting seeing all this stuff that's happening abroad.
Yes, it is, and that's why you need to stay tuned for the update.
Tune in next week for more updates from across the nation and world.
For the update, I'm Isabel Thier.
And I'm Ryan Lynch. Have a wonderful day.